makes sense, right? And so we do have to continue the fight, and hopefully we all remain optimistic. Guys, that's all the time we have for this segment. You can follow these three on social media and stick around because I'm going to sit down with Ty Smith to talk about his viral video criticizing the idea of teaching critical race theory at a school board. Stick around. Welcome back. As you all know, the internet is a dark, lonely, horrible, backwards place. But occasionally, some light breaks through. If you have been online in the past few weeks, you are probably familiar with the viral video of radio host and father Ty Smith criticizing the idea of teaching critical race theory at a school board meeting in Illinois. Let's take a look.
You gonna deliberately teach kids this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You gonna purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed? How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, stand up. We've only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees. No mom, no dad in the house. Worked my way through college. Sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious?
So amazing. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Ty Smith. Wow. So that was incredible. And I think first questions would just be, what is the backstory to this? Like, what made you decide to go to the school board meeting? What is the story?
I was simply asked to go. And what I was told is that, Ty, there's no one that's in the black community that ever shows up in these school board meetings. And some of the big topics that they talk about is what's going on in the black neighborhoods. And they're trying to introduce this type of what they call curricula into the school systems that may possibly be teaching kids basically to be racist against each other. And I'm like, what is this? There's like, it's called critical race theory. So different friends of mine handed me different versions. It's almost like a Bible. Like you got the New International Version, the King James Version of critical race theory. And I'm reading through all these things. But once I read through them, the basis of it was they are teaching racism. They are teaching kids to be racist against each other. And so when I went to this school board meeting, I got to sitting down. I just wanted to hear everybody's take on it because I read it. I got my take from it. I heard people get up and talk about what their take was on it. You got some that actually opposed it, but majority were like, they're for it. Like, this is what we need. This needs to be taught because it's our fault what's happened to the black people. Look what we've done. Our forefathers, we've inherited their DNA. And because of that, our white privilege, this is what we're doing to the black communities. And as I sat there, no kidding, because I was so in tune with what everybody was talking about, I literally looked around the corner like this over my shoulder, like, there ain't no black folks in here. Yeah. I was the only one that was in there that was black, and they're actually talking about somebody that looks exactly like me. So I let everybody kind of say their piece, and I just like, okay, I'm gonna wait. And after that, I just had to get up and just explode and let these people know you have completely, in other words, lost your mind. If you're gonna tell me that based off the color of your skin, everybody that's still in that room was white, as you seen, I turn around and say, you're gonna tell me one of you white people kept me from doing this? Absolutely not. That's nonsense. And once that was over and done, do you think anybody approached me and said, well, hey, this is where you're wrong at?
Right.
None.
So here's a couple of interesting things that you said there. First and foremost, that somebody told you about this, which is, I think, really signifies that there are so many parents, especially black parents, I think, that don't even know that this is being taught and would be similarly outraged if anybody sat them down and said, hey, look at this. Mm-hmm. Look at this documentation. Are you okay? Is this acceptable to you? And I think because it's called critical race theory, you go, okay, maybe they're learning a little bit of history or whatever the classes are. They're always called something different that the left is really good at. And yet it's so poisonous to the young minds of the black youth to separate people quite literally, to assign attributes to them based on the color of their skin. So how do we get the word out, I guess is what I'm asking you.
Well, one way is simply by actually like how that video went viral. But even before then, I'm actually, when I say in the video, I'm actually in the community talking to kids, definitely dealing with the parents. Because number one, I always start with the parents first. And of course, we know that 70+ % of all blacks don't have a father in the home. So I know it's a 90% chance that the kids that I'm dealing with and the mothers that I'm dealing with, daddy is not there. So when I talk to these parents, they're usually a lot of young mothers. They don't even have an idea what it is. So when this video came out, they were all like, so wait a minute, what is it that they're talking about? They're gonna be teaching my son? And I'm like, okay, well, I tell you what, instead of me just telling you, I want you to read it. And then in a day or two, you come back and tell me, what did you get from that? No, they're not going to be teaching my son this. And see, even they were able to pick it up, but they had no idea that the school system is trying to implement it into this education. And so this is what got me. After that video came out, all of a sudden, different people that I don't even know of came, well, we're not teaching it yet. We were just thinking about teaching. It's like, oh, it's almost like the equivalence of me seeing a kid being lured away by a stranger with candy. And as he being lured away, I go over there and I bust it up. And the stranger goes, well, I wasn't going to kidnap them or anything. I just wanted to see if he wanted to see my truck.
Right, yeah, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. So you went to this meeting and somebody said to you, actually, they're sitting here conversing about Black people, and yet there's no Black people there.
No.
Which signifies, obviously, that they are just operating on a Black stereotype, right? This is a stereotype of what a Black person is.
Yes.
And I am the bearer of my forefathers' sins, which, by the way, I mean, forget dating back to time of slavery. I don't even want to be responsible for my mom and dad's sins. I'm not inheriting any of that nonsense, right? We're individuals, and you're responsible for the things that you do wrong. But there's this tremendous amount of white guilt, right? White guilt. What do you think about that? Because it is weird.
It's completely, what I call white guilt is either you virtue signaling or it's just you've been taught to believe something that's completely falsified. You know, you're being told to feel bad about something that you don't even know, you're not responsible for. So wait a minute, I'll give you an example. I told people when I saw videos of these different churches doing the same thing where they had, I don't know if you've seen it, you probably have, where they showed white people bowing down and having their hands up, telling, we're sorry for our forefathers and what they did. God, forgive us for what our, and I'm sitting there thinking like, what in the world is that? So what I do when I go to neighborhoods, I told them, what would y'all do if I had every Black child that don't have a father in the home? If I got down before all those children and said, I'm so sorry for what the Black fathers have not done. I'm so sorry is that my fault? No, it's your father's fault that decided to leave you. So why would I take on the responsibility and take on all that pressure and take on all that pain and put that blame on me for their father not being in the home?
Right.
And so when you bring things like that to people, they kind of get to thinking like, well, when you put it that way, yeah. So I'm like, so what are you feeling guilty about? Do you actually feel guilty or were you just told to feel guilty?
Right. And beyond that, I think that there has also been this element, and you and I have had a similar experience. I obviously notoriously went to Congress. I had to testify at a hearing about white supremacy. And notably, I was the only Black person testifying about the experience of white supremacy and how it's impacting Black people. And I remember the frustration at listening to all of these white people who have PhDs in meaninglessness, a PhD in racism and white supremacy, and they're talking about Black people, and it never once occurred for them to just listen to me, right? And so you kind of said that you had a similar experience where it's a bizarre thing. It's like you step into a weird world where you realize, is this even about Black people anymore, or is this just white people trying to make themselves feel superior to their other white peers? Right.
Like, hey, I'm white. And I know it better than the other whites because I see what's going on with the Blacks, and the Blacks don't know what's going on with the Blacks because they just don't know, and that's why we're telling their story.
Right.
And I'm sitting here like, I am the story. You're going to tell my story for me. And so for me to come out of the ghetto, for me to come out of the hood, for me to come out of seeing people getting murdered in my face, I'm talking about flat out murder. Y'all, you have no idea the psychological effects these type of things can have on you. So you end up becoming numb. You see so much crime that you become numb. And so in a sense, I'm kind of thankful for that because a lot of stuff that's coming at me right now, I don't care. Yeah. No white person can sit there and tell me my experience. And no white person can sit there and tell me that a Black person cannot achieve anything that they do not want to achieve. I know that y'all are trying to push, when I say y'all, I mean like this system, this narrative is trying to be pushed on kids, on children, on Black people, that the reason why they cannot achieve anything is because of something that happened completely in the past. What about right now? What can you do right now? How does something that happened that many years ago is affecting you right now? And some of them try to come out and say things like, well, we want true history taught. And they always go to Christopher Columbus. He didn't discover America, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, well, can we go beyond that? Can we go, how did the slaves get here? Let's talk about that. If you want to talk about real history, how did the slaves get here? Who sold the slaves? Do you really believe that 3 boats came to that big giant continent in Africa where all these Black people is and they just said, let's go round them up? Even if they had guns and all Africans had spears and shoot guns, there is no way you're gonna be able to overtake that continent and just steal black people. So if you want to talk about real history, let's talk about how somebody look exactly like you sold you to those white people.
Right.
Well, no, we don't want to go there. Oh, no, we want to go there. You say you want to talk about the truth, we're going to talk about the truth. And when you do that, they instantly would try to deflect and get on something else. Well, what makes you so what? No, we're not talking about rebound. Can we stay on the subject?
Right.
And that's what they like to do. But to sit there and try to take away my experience and what I had to go through and how I put my mind to wanted to achieve something, there was nothing that was there. Guys, I was so naive and so ignorant that when they told me that there was the white man and there was the systemic racism, institutionalized racism, I believed it so much that I went out asking, looking for that man. And that man and that system, whoever it was, it did not exist. And once I found that it did not exist, there was nothing that was stopping me.
Right. You know, there's something that I have noticed, and you kind of hit upon this. People that are the most ignorant about Black history are Black people. There is just this weird, almost a fairy tale like story of we were all kings and queens, and then the evil white man came and hunted onto Africa and took us in chains. And slavery, that's when slavery began. And it's so purposefully diluted, right? Purposely diluted. Obviously, we were not all kings and
No.
queens. We were slaves. We were slaves that were sold, you know, for things as meaningless, actually. We were sold by our ancestors for things as meaningless as gin and mirrors. They'd, okay, give me a mirror and I'll give you 10 slaves, you know, 10 or 20 slaves. And yet there seems to be this total disconnect about our own history. And they think that America is unique and that it's like the first continent to have slavery. And that just, it always boggles my mind how uneducated Black
Yes.
Americans remain about Black history, but it's almost not our fault because the school system,
That's right.
as you are realizing, is hitting upon it. And now they're even deepening that wedge between Black Americans and their true history.
That's right. So if you really got down to the history of slavery, period, and seen that it was something that was worldwide, the Chinese had a huge slave thing, the Islamic had, matter of fact, when the slaves got freed over here in America, the Islamic still had white people that was enslaved while people in America were being free, the Black slaves were. So to me, you made a really interesting points on a few of the videos that I've seen of you where you talk about how they just really much, they ride off of the emotions. And one thing that's really fascinating about that is being a minister, that same exact thing is in church. They'll hit you with something. Our queens, we were this, and Black folks, yeah. And then preachers will get up there and talk about God can do this, and won't he do it? And Black people, yeah. But when you go to them afterwards and you say, what exactly was the message behind that? I don't know, but they said something. It got you worked up. It got you, whatever they were saying, you were feeling so good about it that you thought that they were saying something that actually was impactful. Well, indeed, it wasn't.
Right.
And that's what they do right now. Everybody out there in the streets, Black lives matter, and this matter, and that matter. If it really mattered, if Black lives really mattered, then why aren't you in the neighborhoods actually showing Black people how much a Black life matter instead of just going around and talking and preaching about it and not putting your foot to it and doing anything?
Absolutely. And you hit at the reception of this video. Obviously, this went very viral. And everybody poured in. I'm assuming everyone just said, this is amazing. We can finally hear from a Black person about how they're feeling. But I'm going to go ahead and also assume that that's not what happened and that you maybe got a little bit of hate for this video.
Oh, my God. I deal with hate so good. And the reason why is because where I come from, the hate was there. I did track and field. I did triple jump. Was so good that I traveled to 39 different states. I won Junior Olympics. I went over to Barcelona, Spain, won a huge event there. And what's so amazing is that all these people in these different areas that don't know you, they see the accomplishment that you've done. They're, oh my God, everything is complimentary. You over here getting fed right. You're getting treated right. People lifting you up. You go into the airports, people see the gold medals in there. That is awesome that you did that. I go back home to the hood. You ain't nothing because you got a gold medal on. Who do you think you are? You just some uppity da-da-da-da-da. So from a young age, I learned that people, no matter what it is, whether you do something good or do something bad, whether you are a star or you are not a star, if someone wants to tear you down because they're jealous of something that you got, they're going to do it. So the hate that I'm catching right now, okay, welcome it. Okay, moving on. Quit trying to deflect from the truth that I'm telling you and want to just try to throw this hate at me. Well, who is he like right now? I'm not married. I don't have 2 children. I don't have no degrees. I'm not a musician. I'm not a minister. And guess what? According to this president right now, I ain't even Black.
Right. I saw this. I saw that the internet tried to remove all of your credentials, which is what happens when a Black person sort of ordains a thing for ourselves. So, when they say instantly, well, you're not Black, you don't count anymore. And this instantly happened to you. They instantly said everything that he's ever told you was a lie and he's some weird plant and he's not even a Black man.
No.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yes, I mean, I'm Black, but I got somebody that don't even know me is going to tell me that I'm not Black.
Right.
And again, it's just to deflect away from the truth? Are we going to talk about my credentials and everything that I have? Or are we going to talk about what I was speaking on? Bring it right back to talking about trying to teach these kids, showing these kids soft porn. Bring it back to we talking about critical race theory, teaching to be racist. Well, where's your wife? No, we're not talking about my wife. We're talking about we're talking about the critical race theory. We're talking about the crazy hypersexualizing children right now. Let's stay there.
You would think that the only credential you need to talk about Black Americans would be just, knowing a little bit about history, or you would think that just by the virtue of being Black, right, walking in there, that you were credentialed enough to speak on the topic. But apparently that's not the case, because they believe that you need to have PhDs and doctorates in anti-racism to be able to speak on this issue at hand. Right. I want to know how your children, because you have 2 children, right?
Yes.
You have 2 boys.
Yes.
How did they respond to this?
Just like, that's Dad. I guess because the thing, because it went viral, they were like, oh, wow, Dad went viral on something. But as far as seeing me speaking like that and talk to kids and be in kids' face and really come down to the heart of what's actually plaguing Black families, which is something that I didn't have, was fathers, then they see like this is what Dad does all the time. And what's fascinating too is that they have the same mindset that I do. They don't let things that actually emotional arousal and how people respond get to them. They'll just wait, let it calm down. Now, let's go back to being logic and talk about the subject that was at hand, because just because you're getting up and screaming and yelling, that doesn't mean anything. Because you get up and scream and yell and that does not mean that what you're saying is true. It just means you're just getting emotional.
That's exactly right. Well, I hate to do this, but I'm going to actually have to check your credentials and do a deep dive and a fact check on you. You posted this on social media, notably. It's a picture of me and you at a Blexit event, and you said that I was at Real Candace Owens, I was your sister,
yes.
Right? And now people are walking up to me going, are you his sister? Are you his sister? Is this true? Are you and me brother and sister?
You sure you want to let Mom and Dad know about this?
I love this.
Absolutely,
I love seeing this. It's so
100% no. This is so fascinating how
but also yes, right?
Yes, this is my sister. All of you are my brother and my sister.
I love that.
All of you.
I love that. Beautiful. Every other American patriot that is watching this that believes that we need to fight to protect our children and will not allow this country to be racialized any further is our brother, uncle, cousin, sister,
That's right.
and friend. So, guys, that's all the time that we have. Please give it up for Ty Smith. You guys, be sure to follow Ty on social media and stick around, because I will be answering your questions next.
What is going on, folks? Appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor, if you're trying to get to the next reaction video that I did after this video, it's right here. But if you're trying to get to my own personal stuff where I do a lot of comedy things that make you laugh, can help brighten your day, then you click right here, all right? And if you want to subscribe to this channel, you forgot to get to know who I am first, all right? Then you're going to click right here to lead you into the subscription. Make sure you hit the bell notifications to get notified anytime I post a video, all right? Let people